What's going on, everybody? Hope you are having a great time. Great time? What am I talking about? A great day, great week, great month, great start to the year. Podcast time. I really don't need to introduce this guy, Dubfire. He has had a very successful career in many ways. He was one half of Deep Dish, which was a massive dance act back in the day. He then started his career as Dubfire that has had extreme success with also his record label Sci-Tech, which is an unbelievable record label. He has businesses in music industry. He's also a massive foodie. So yeah, I really wanted to get him on the podcast and just talk about his life, and it's very interesting. So without further ado, Dubfire. What is good, my man? How are you?
How are you?
I'm really good. Yeah, I'm really good. I'm in sunny England right now.
Nice. We're both in our studios, I see.
Yeah, man. Where are you? Whereabouts are you?
I'm back in, I just got back from Miami last night. I kind of been on the road for the last 2 months.
Yeah.
So, this early part of the year is usually set aside for, studio work.
Yeah.
Finishing like things that I was dabbling in that I didn't get a chance to finish while I was on tour last year. And also starting with a blank canvas for the future, try to figure out what the kids are listening to these days and the kind of music that I want to make,
Totally. How are you feeling coming off after tour?
Good. A bit wrecked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of had, some people have one of those restful holidays where they go away to like an island and bask in the sun for a couple weeks. And for the last couple of years, I just kind of been traveling around and visiting friends and going on like food excursions and drinking a lot of amazing wines and sakis and things like that. This time around, it was began with 3 weeks in Japan, which is one of my favorite places in the world, which I hadn't been to since before the pandemic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for the studio and I'm ready to detox.
Totally. Yeah. Man,
abstain from alcohol and all kinds of, bad foods and a lot of my favorite foods that I like to eat for the next couple months. So yeah.
Strict health diet for the next few months.
Strict health
until the next tour. Yeah.
Except coffee. Coffee is always okay.
I don't drink coffee. I have this thing where I absolutely am obsessed with coffee machines, but I don't even like the smell of coffee. I can't even eat a coffee cake. I just cannot stand the taste, and I wish I'd liked it because I feel like there's some like insane amounts of art behind coffee and the process and the processes, but I also don't have a coffee machine because there's no point in me getting a coffee machine. So I need to get a girlfriend that likes coffee, so then I can buy a coffee machine and then I can make coffee every morning.
Or turn a coffee machine into some sort of musical instrument or something.
Or something like that, maybe. You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's an interesting obsession. There must be a word for someone who's really into the machine, but not really into what the machine
does.
I
think
or makes.
I'm not too sure what it is, but I have I really like engineering, I guess. And I like how machines look. Like I'm very like a visual person. I'm pretty sure it's probably linked to music as well. I'm sure you're the same. It goes back to the food, if you know what I mean. It's exactly the same.
Totally.
You can make food that sometimes doesn't look great, but it tastes amazing. But then when the food looks amazing and tastes amazing at the same time, it's just a whole nother level of experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
How did you go on?
Go ahead.
No, go for it. Keep going. Keep going.
No, I was just, as we were talking about this, I was just thinking, I mean, I was into coffee, but I didn't become an obsessive until, like, I was I bumped into Matthew Deere, who records this Audio Don, Audion. Audio Don. Audio Don would be a great name. I have to remember that
That's
one.
A good
Audio
one.
Don. It's a good one. Nobody. If anyone's listening, please don't take that.
10% to you if you do.
Exactly. Yeah. No, we ran into each other. I think it was maybe at Frankfurt Airport. It was, and then we went to the lounge together, and he started like I went to get like I used the machine to get like an espresso, and he pulled out like an AeroPress.
No way.
His own beans, like a portable grinder, and he just asked for hot water. And I watched him like go through that whole process of making like, and he had, the beans he sourced from, local place that he loves their beans. And he just made this incredible cup of coffee, and he had it like black with no milk or sugar or anything. And I shared that with him, shared that experience as well. And after that, I started to like grill him weekly about like machines and grinders and things like that. And that really kind of set me on that path. And then I started to have like a real, deep appreciation for like the whole barista kind of craft coffee movement. And so whenever I'm going to, whether I'm making it at home or I go out to cafes, I'm really paying attention to every step and trying to source the best beans. And, you have kettles now where you can dial in like the exact water temperature, everything can be quite precise these days. And I guess it's akin to music making,
of course,
in some weird metaphoric way.
I think it's also the artistry of perfection that we're always trying to get, but never actually achieving because it doesn't exist. So I think it's just that
doesn't exist.
It's just that constant try to better each time.
I mean we're all obviously, we're striving for perfection, but like the thing that I always try to remember is like connection. I always try to remember the word connection. Like it's all about trying to maybe not perfect, but connect, like try to connect with what you're doing in the studio. And if it connects with you, then hopefully it's going to connect to your audience, to the critics, to your colleagues, so for me, connection becomes something that sometimes feels unattainable, but when you do connect, it gives you like a sliver of hope that it is attainable. And then the journey continues in trying to reach for that.
Keep going. Yeah. Where did the whole food thing came around for you? I'm like a massive foodie, so like I think I think most of our
we're supposed to get together and either cook or eat at some point.
We are. Most of this conversation is going to be about food, probably. So I apologize for anyone that came for the music. But yeah, I guess where did it come from? Because I've known that you had an obsession for food for a very long time, even before I knew you personally. So yeah.
Yeah, I think initially it was like a reaction to letting the promoters, like in the very early days of Deep Dish when we were touring, we would often allow the promoters to choose the hotel and choose the restaurant because we hadn't traveled. We didn't know. We didn't really, frankly, know what good food was. And it was just the constant touring and allowing promoters to take us to different places that either gave me an appreciation for like the local cuisine or, they thought that we would like kind of the fast food chain. And that turned into me having to do research in advance and actually requesting certain, restaurants. And so it kind of began there, but then we just got too busy just, with touring and being in the studio and that wasn't like a primary focus of mine, as part of the whole touring kind of dynamic. But it really kickstarted for me when I went to El Bulli, which is the famous restaurant from the Adria brothers, which is in the Costa Brava and Roses, 2 hours outside of Barcelona. And that was like a 6.5 hour journey.
Yeah.
You know, as you know, you'd have to describe it as a journey. I mean, sitting down to eat 6.5 hours. You know, first you arrive, you're led onto like their patio that overlooks the beach. You know, they're just above this beautiful beach, and you're given edible cocktails. Okay. So not drinkable cocktails, edible cocktails for like a good hour and a half with small bites, and everything is blowing your mind. Yeah, you know, just everything has a concept behind it. There's always a twist. Nothing is what it seems, and I drew a lot of comparisons to music making, music performance during that meal. You know, and then you're led into the kitchen, and one dish after another arrives, and most of them are just small little bites, but there's a certain order to it all. And you know, I of course I'd been to Japan, and I'd experienced kaiseki cuisine. Yeah. You know, so they borrowed a lot of the same, you know, concepts in terms of presentation and the order of things. Yeah. From kaiseki cuisine, which I believe is Kyoto based, and really, really beautiful, elegant, and using only seasonal products and what have you. And just by the end of that meal, I was so blown away that I became kind of an obsessed foodie, you know. So it really began in 2010. I went back in 2011, and that was the year they actually announced, right after my visit in 2010, they announced that they were going to close. You know, kind of the peak of their fame. You know, it just wasn't sustainable. You know, Noma most recently announced that they were also closing. Yeah, for perhaps similar reasons. But I thought that was also interesting for a restaurant to want to close when they have more interest than ever. Yeah. You know, and they could potentially make more money, but we never know what's going on behind the scenes. So, yeah, I went in 2011, and I kind of reaffirmed my experience, because they did kind of the Bully Hall of Fame was like 56 courses. Jesus. Yeah. But we were so excited to be there. I was there with some, you know, restaurant friends, and, you know, to sharing that experience with them. It's something we continue to talk about. And of course, subsequent to that, in traveling, I always tried to source the best restaurants. I became, you know, good friends with a lot of chefs around the world, because I found out that they were fans of whether it's my music or our genre of music or music in general. And I'd go eat there before the gig. I'd invite, you know, the head chef and all the other chefs down to the, you know, to my show later. They'd all come down. We'd all share a drink. They'd kind of they would experience how I perform. Yeah. Especially when I'm playing the longer sets. And we would have conversations about like the whole kind of tasting menu concept in terms of how it, you know, how you can juxtapose it with like, you know, like an open to close DJ set where you have like the beginning, middle, and end, and the muse bouche and things kind of just ramp up, and then you're into desserts and you know, small little kind of pastries at the very end, and alcohol is a part of that. So it's another reference point that they could understand. So it was just it was a gradual evolution to appreciate like that art form and see a lot of similarities between what we do as musicians.
I think the whole chef and DJ kind of is hand in hand to a certain extent, although I do think chefs work way harder than DJs in the grand scheme of things. But it's a very we work in a very social environment, but our jobs can be extremely antisocial at the same time. Whereas we are the performers, we have to give the crowd what they want, and this is the same with chefs. Fair enough, ours seems a little bit more fun. We're not locked away behind a kitchen, but I feel like the worlds are very much aligned, and I think that's why a lot of musicians delve into the world of food as well, because I think there's a lot of relation between that. Where's the favorite place you've been?
God, there have been so many. I was recently in Napa Valley for 2 days, and I went to Single Thread, which is I guess you would describe it as like a kaiseki inspired restaurant in Healdsburg, which is in Sonoma County, and that was an amazing meal. It was interesting to have that kind of food interpreted by, and I'm not too familiar with the chefs. I think it's like a husband and wife team, but I remember reading many years before an article that Pete Wells did in the New York Times. It was sort of about Single Thread, but it was also comparing Single Thread to the other 3 Michelin star restaurants, which is French Laundry and Meadowwood, and really, nailing it in terms of how he described all three, and talking about Single Thread as being like, the kind of the most exciting restaurant in the whole kind of Napa restaurant scene. And I really wanted to go, and I was with a friend who just started a winery, and he brought 2 of his wines that are coming out next year. And we just had this amazing meal, trying to, see what his wines paired best with.
Yeah.
And, that was pretty exceptional. When I was in Tokyo, I went to Wagyu Mafia. I don't know if anybody follows the Wagyu Mafia Instagram, but those guys are hilarious. Hisato and his whole team, the way they created this whole marketing and image around Japanese beef, Wagyu beef. They've become quite popular, and they just did actually on the 27th last month, they did a pop-up. They go around doing pop-ups around the world, but they did one at a friend's place in LA, which was pretty successful. And before that, Las Vegas. So those kind of, spring to mind.
I love going when you go to Japan and you eat in a Wagyu restaurant and how they kind of serve it to you. I can't remember, the place I used to go to is closed down now, but it was just amazing how they'd cook it in front of you on the charcoal barbecues, and it just tastes. I love Japanese culture generally. There's something I think that a lot of the world can learn from.
Totally. I mean, just how orderly they are. Like everything has its place, and there's an order to things, and they're obsessed with hygiene. And they're really humble. It's a beautiful culture to embrace and to be around. So, I mean, every time I'm in Japan, I'm just soaking it all up.
Would you ever live there?
Yeah. I actually, I was grilling some friends. We spent some time in Kyoto. I was there with my girlfriend who'd never been to Japan before. So it was nice to kind of experience it, through her eyes as well. And take her to all my favorite places. But I explored maybe buying something in Kyoto, because Tokyo's a bit, it's too densely populated, and it's a bit crazy. And Kyoto this time around felt more like it could be a potential.
I've never been to Kyoto.
Oh, that's beautiful. It's like kind of the cultural epicenter of Japan.
Yeah, I've never been.
Full of temples, beautiful temples, amazing food, great sake from that region. It's got it all.
I think if it wasn't so far away, I would definitely, or I worked a lot more in that part of the world, I would definitely think about living there, or maybe just doing a year there, 6 months, just to fully.
Where are you based? Mainly.
I split my time between UK and Detroit.
Okay.
So I mean,
and Detroit, because you were going to school there, or you grew up there? Or?
No, I grew up in Somerset in the UK, which is near Bristol. And then I moved to LA when I first started touring in America. Then LA, I went to New York. Love New York, but just didn't want to spend New York prices really. And then a promoter friend from New York had just started investing in Detroit. Kind of said, how about trying Detroit out? I had friends there and ended up getting a place there 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I go back and forth. I'm in, you know how it is. You're kind of not really anywhere at one time. So if I'm touring in America or South America, I'm in Detroit. If I'm touring Europe or anywhere else, really, I'm in the UK. It's like chalk and cheese, though. I guess it's similar to you, right? You're in Barcelona as well, right?
Yeah. But with Detroit, do you feel the same, I guess, as maybe someone who moves from like the USA to Berlin? Like, do you feel that Detroit is that mecca of creativity with that sense of history, musical kind of legacy?
To a certain extent. I think the scene is the history is stronger than the scene itself. But I love this. I love the community around the scene. And I love the creativity. For me, it kind of reminds me of what I can imagine Brooklyn was like 15 years ago. Right now, it's like it's very affordable for young artists to move to. Like there's fashion brands popping up. There's really nice restaurants popping up because it's cheap for people to buy property and open a restaurant. There's producers there. There's photographers there. Whereas like, I think it allows people to be creative. There is a dark side to Detroit that I'm not a huge fan of. There's a dark side to a lot of places, but especially Detroit. It's sad that you have such a huge culturally kind of rich city in America, and it's just forgotten about, really. But people invest in there. People are bringing a lot of things back, so it's slowly growing. Even in the 5 years that I've been there, I've seen a massive change, which is nice.
And I'm sure you've been a fan of the techno music and the artists that came out of there. Have you been able to meet a lot of your? Sorry to turn the table.
No, I'm definitely
But so have you been able to meet a lot of, I guess, your idols or people whose music you followed?
I have. I've been really fortunate, but I also took my time and still haven't met everybody that I want to, because I want everything to be like super organic. It's very easy. I also have to, and this may offend people, and this isn't made to offend people, but it's very easy to be the white boy in a black city and go in all guns blazing and expect to be friends with everybody. For me, it's like having to understand. You have to
earn, and
of course,
and you have to kind of earn their respect and friendship, for sure.
So Stacey, I'm friendly with Stacey. I'm good friends with Kevin. I'm pretty close with DJ Bone, obviously, who lives in Amsterdam now.
He's a sweetheart.
Yeah, he's amazing. I really, really want to meet Moody Man. Like, he's at the top of the list. And I'd love to meet Juan. Omar, we've got mutual friends, but I've not met him yet. The history of Detroit is amazing, as we all know. It changed my sound 100%, completely changed my sound. For the better, 100%. And
for me also, like, just thinking about Detroit as we're talking, like, if it wasn't for, I was a total obsessive. Every vinyl record that had like 313 area code, I would buy. My Detroit collection is pretty insane. And I became obsessed with Carl Craig and his early work. And I remember calling the phone number on the, one of the Planet E releases, the jazz funk kind of titled release, and he picked up the phone. I never imagined that he would pick up the phone. And in those early days, it's the same way I met Richie. Like I called the number on plus
no
8
way.
and he picked
That's
up the
amazing.
phone. Yeah, but Carl picked up the phone and we had a great conversation. I sent him I think it was we had 2 releases at that point. And that turned into a lifelong friendship and kind of a mentorship. And he obviously introduced me to all the other guys that I wanted to meet and whose music I was obsessing over.
Yeah.
And so Detroit was always kind of a part of my story, even though I'm not from there.
Yeah, totally.
But it's always there. Even recently when I was in Japan, just perusing the aisles at HMV, there's a massive Detroit section. Just going through that section, the Japanese have a lot of, everything's meticulously categorized and organized and beautifully like laid out. And it was just a trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
And I took the time to take a photo of that and tag all my favorite artists whose music was in that bin.
Yeah.
And that brought back a lot of memories for me.
I'm also a huge fan of Motown and soul music, which obviously Detroit is one of the kind of starters of that era. So for me,
you've done the tour, obviously.
Yeah, I've done the Hitsville. And there's still some pretty good record shops that sell old vinyl and new vinyl of like the Motown. So like my Sundays when I have a weekend off is going to the record store and just like searching what stuff I can find really, which is special because we don't always have that in every city nowadays, which is nice. But whether Detroit is forever for me, I don't think it is. But it holds it took me a long time to adjust. It took me a very long time to adjust. How was it for you moving from America to Europe?
For me, it felt, for years I'd wanted to, but I never made the move because I couldn't figure out where I wanted my European hub to be. Obviously, I connected with places like London and Amsterdam and Paris and Berlin, but none of those places ever felt like home.
Yeah.
Rich, I remember, was trying to convince me to move to Berlin, and Berlin at the time seemed like the obvious choice.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much creativity there. But for whatever reason, I ended up choosing Barcelona. I think it had something to do with my 2 visits to El Bulli.
Yeah.
Always connecting through Barcelona or Madrid on my way to Ibiza, in and out of Ibiza. Then meeting, I met this producer, Davide Scolace. We became good friends. He introduced me to his kind of group of friends, and some local restaurants that they would go to for like the family meal every Sunday. And it was through a few of those experiences that, like, Barcelona more and more, every time I would visit, just felt like it could be a potential home. And then when I finally moved there, it was just initially staying with a friend for a couple summers, only for like a month or 2, really liking it, and then deciding to rent a place.
Yeah.
And I was renting for, I think, more than 10 years. And then I recently bought a place just before the pandemic, actually, in 2019. And then I couldn't get back there.
Yeah.
that year of the pandemic until my residency came through. So that was another an interesting twist to the whole
so are you
living in Barcelona thing.
Are you a Spanish resident?
I'm officially a Spanish resident.
Do you have a passport?
No, I don't have citizenship, just residency. Citizenship will have to maybe come later once I master the language.
Can you speak Spanish?
As you're saying, we're so transient. We're all constantly moving in and out of wherever we are, that it's been hard to absorb, like, the language.
Well, I feel like
fully.
Yeah, I feel like you have to fully immerse yourself in the culture, and I think also
You have to have time, I think, is one thing that we as DJs and producers just lack. You know?
Yeah. I think also, do you speak any other languages at all?
Farsi, which is my mother tongue.
Yeah. Me being a typical English boy, I speak nothing else apart from English. And the arrogancy of when you go to a country and expect everyone to speak English. And it's just, it kills me every time I go to another country, because I'm like, I need to learn. And Spanish is probably the best language that I know the most of. But I feel like you have to just immerse yourself in the culture for like fully, and just have friends that won't speak to you in your mother language, and get involved with the culture. It's tough, like you said, when we're traveling around so much. Or
work in a Spanish kitchen.
Exactly.
I mean, a lot of the chefs that I talked to who came to and staged from all around the world, came to Barcelona specifically, or anywhere in the world. That was the way they learned, you know, because everybody else in the kitchen spoke nothing but Spanish or whatever other language. And they had to, you know.
Well, it's do it or die, isn't it?
Spending 12, 14 hours every day, you know, like after 2-3 months, you're going to get a good grasp of it, I guess.
Yeah. Unless you, totally. Would you, I'm not too sure, but we haven't spoken about this, but would you ever take time out to be a chef?
Yeah, I think about, and I've thought about this obviously for many, many years. I've done the odd kind of food event, whether it's like the Tractor Cookery during AD, or they used to have a cooking contest at the Culinaire. And I remember the first year I was cooking something. I can't remember what it was I was making, but you know, there was a lot of chefs, and then like there was a vote on what the best meal was going to be. And then the following year I was a judge. But yeah, experiences like that, like also made me try to focus more on, okay, what's the exit strategy out of this? Or like, could I have a restaurant, or could I, you know, like Laurent Garnier, I don't know if people know this, but Laurent Garnier, I think is one Saturday per month, he's in the kitchen of this restaurant, not far from where he lives in France. That's
amazing.
It's, I think, in the Asian fusion kind of restaurant. And Laurent is also like an obsessed foodie. And that kind of, in some ways, maybe brought him in balance, you know, with all the other kind of musical commitments. And maybe that's what us self-obsessed kind of foodies need to bring about a bit of balance into our lives, you know.
I think you're right. I think it's anybody that is just doing one thing needs something else to kind of just take the focus off things, I think, and to realize that it's not that important. And that sounds awful to say, because it's our careers, it's our lives, but there's a way bigger picture of life than just making music and touring, DJing. Yeah.
I mean, you know, DJing, you're kind of, you're sort of put on a pedestal.
100%.
You're kind of like a preacher. You're preaching to your audience, and it could give you a false sense of superiority. And inflate your ego. And it becomes like a drug. It's like you need that.
100%.
And we have to sometimes remember that at the end of the day, okay, we DJing is an art form. Yes, we can talk about that. But at the end of the day, you're just playing other people's music.
Yeah, of course.
So you're not that important, buddy.
No,
you know,
not
it's
at all.
like,
not at all.
I try to remind some of my EDM DJ friends about that.
Yeah. How I want to get into that a little bit, because you've had an extremely long career and an extremely successful career in from what I know, I don't know before Deep Dish, but you've had Deep Dish and you've had Dubfire. Obviously, I grew up listening to Deep Dish when I was a kid, and my first or second season in Ibiza was when Dubfire. Well, I came across Dubfire. You as you're the alias, and I was sitting down earlier today, and I was just thinking, like, you've had such a long, successful career, and how do you deal with that on the ego level, and how have you coped to also have like a normality, a normal side of life, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, I have that personality type where I've never really had an ego, and I always think everything I do sucks, and everything everyone else does is way better.
It's amazing, yeah.
And I'll never, you know, be as good as them.
Yeah.
So that's sort of my credo. And I also, you know, being Persian and still having a very close relationship with my family, like they've kept me grounded.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of the same friends since before my journey into music, into Deep Dish, and etc. That are still with me today. They keep me grounded.
Yeah.
None of them are impressed with the success. They're proud of my success, but they're not really, like, they don't make me feel. They don't put me on.
That's good. You need that
pedestal. So I've somehow maintained. I've tried to be humble, you know, throughout the whole journey, and try to stay grounded. And to this day, I mean, I still don't feel like, while I've made my mark, whether it's in Deep Dish or Dubfire, I feel like I have so much more musical ideas to share and creativity to tap into. So I never think that, I never kind of sniff my own shit, so to speak, or like, you know, I just move forward. I'm always like one to want to move forward and take what I've learned from past experiences, not only like with my own musical output, but, you know, the music that I'm exposed to then and now, and try to come out with something like the sound of tomorrow. I mean, I think we're all trying to create the sound of tomorrow.
Totally. What was your?
It's never. Yeah, go ahead.
What was your childhood like growing up?
It was. I mean, it was difficult. With all this stuff that's been going on in Iran, I've done some interviews where I've talked about like what it was like being in Iran just before the revolution, and then coming over to the USA at a time where like the hostility towards, you know, Iranians was at an all-time high because of the hostage crisis, and just the anti-American kind of sentiment, the death to America kind of chanting. I mean, we came to America around that time.
Wow.
So we went from our motherland to a place where we didn't feel welcome at all for a number of years. And we had to kind of quietly assimilate into the culture, and decided to stay for whatever reason, even though it was hostile. Even though I didn't know the language. I guess my family felt like no matter what, at least we would be given like an opportunity here that we wouldn't have there or elsewhere. And so we stayed, and I was, you know, obviously an introvert because I didn't speak the language. And I remember the teacher on the first day of class when I was 7 or 8 years old, just giving me like, you know, some paper and some crayons and markers, and I drew, and I was good at drawing. And so the teacher became interested in you know, that part of my personality and the other students as well. So that became kind of my entry point into being accepted or feeling accepted in those early days. And then later on that extended to like, you know, being in photography classes, playing in school bands.
Yeah.
So it was always like music was always, or the arts was always kind of there as my kind of comfort zone to retreat into or to spotlight, you know, as a way to get to know me or me to get to know others. That's why I think I ended up in a career
in creativity,
in music, you know, because it felt normal, you know. And early on, I remember I wanted to be in a band. Like initially, I just wanted to be a rock musician or a musician who's performing an instrument on stage. But like everyone else, like I was obsessed with technology and you know, once I realized that you can actually make music by yourself without bandmates, like in a bedroom studio, and then you can go perform it by yourself, or you could DJ, and it didn't take too much effort, because back then you had to like actually, you know, hardware was expensive.
Of course.
And it was gradually becoming cheaper and cheaper, but only having a studio was expensive. But there's all these new technologies that allowed like the individual to make music in the bedroom, and then go perform it on a DJ mixer with vinyl or whatever. And it just it felt more attainable. Like that dream that I had was sort of fast tracked, I guess, by this diversion into electronic music.
Was Deep Dish the first electronic music project you kind of went into?
I remember the first thing I ever did, I was obviously playing in bands and talent shows, and trying to make original club music. And I was really into like the whole acid jazz sound. And I became a resident for one half of Theory Corporation. Eric Hilton had a successful night called Exodus that was running for like a good 4 or 5 years. And I was the resident DJ along with a Jamaican MC named Hutchie. And I think the very first thing I ever did was like, I did the artwork for their first vinyl release. That came out, I think it was on their label, which was distributed by 8 Ball Records, which was an early New York label at the time. And I might have done the beats or the scratching. I don't remember now. I think I have credit for doing the artwork, the scratching, and maybe like the backbeat or something. So that was the very first thing that came out on vinyl. And I was really proud of that. I remember shortly after that, I met Sharam, and we, you know, released that first record, which was called Moods, I believe. And, you know, we just got a lot of interest at that time. You know, during that period of time, like everything was new, you know, like the script was being written. You know, it obviously began like in the mid to late 80s, but everything was new. There weren't as many DJs and producers. And of course, there were records coming from Detroit and New York, Chicago, Belgium, you know, the UK. And we were just taking all those influences and trying to give it our own kind of spin.
Amazing. How... When your parents moved to America with you, bring you over to America from Iran, and then you get into becoming an artist, there's not usually the way, from my experience, of having friends of immigrants, it's not usually the direction where parents want their children to go. How was that dynamic growing up?
It was, you know, it was combative. It was them obviously not understanding the field I wanted to go in. It's you know, I'm just thinking about it now, how big of a culture like just DJing is, and how people with only a passing knowledge of music understand what DJs do via social media. You know, like a lot of bloggers and influencers have become DJs, and like DJing is an art form. DJing is a career, I should say, is a lot more widely acceptable.
100%.
A widely acceptable career path than it was when I was starting out. I mean, the connotation in America when you said you were a DJ was that you were like a kind of a wedding or private event. You know, musical selector. You would have your own equipment. You show up, set up, play, and leave and get paid. It was not a very glamorous occupation, and there wasn't a lot of money to be made as well. So it wasn't like a viable career path in the eyes of many, let alone, you know, immigrant parents who wanted their kids to become like doctors or lawyers or engineers. So, but, you know, I think my mom especially, like, she really understood the dream that I had. She understood that, like, she instilled a certain work ethic in me that I have to this day. You know, Shiram and I both, we had day jobs all day long, and then we would go into the studio, we work all night, and then we would go sometimes right from the studio into our day jobs. And that was something that we were doing for the bulk of those early deep dish years. And it wasn't till we got to a point where we were just like sleeping through our alarm when we had like an hour or two to sleep before going to work, one too many times, one too many meetings in the back room with the general manager or the regional manager saying, hey, you know, like, this is, you can't keep missing work. That we were at a crossroads, and we had to decide, like, you know, whether we're going to do it full time and give up that baseline income that, you know, that we were making at the time, that allowed us to kind of sustain ourselves and our budding career as DJs and producers. So yeah, it was a really difficult period, but like, I think these days it's obviously, you know, you don't really have, you're not going to have like the kind of combative relationship that you would have with your family
back then
if you wanted to go into making music.
I think it's still a tough one, isn't it? Because I think a lot of parents want their kids to go to university and go the traditional route, but I think hopefully, fingers crossed, that slowly goes out of fashion and it turns into something way more. I think you've obviously seen it over the years. I've even seen it, is like more and more people want to do it. Everyone and their cat's a DJ nowadays, which has its pros and cons to everything. You go from deep dish to then doing Dubfire. I don't know the transition really, but how
the transition was difficult. I'll let you finish the question.
That's what I was going to say. Is how do you go from having pretty successful commercial success as deep dish in an era where not many people were achieving what you were achieving, to I'm stopping this and I'm going to be writing techno?
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to, you know, to start underground and go into, you know, the commercial kind of arena. But going back underground, that was really difficult. And to this day, like, I'm still not accepted in a lot of like underground purist techno circles. Yeah, there's a lot of clubs or festivals that don't book me because of my past in deep dish.
I have that,
or the successes that I had with as the Dubfire.
I was gonna say,
the Grindhouse and things like that. Like, I'm viewed unfairly as kind of like a commercial underground techno artist. I don't know.
It's really interesting because I think we, as artists, we all have something like that. Like for me, it was like, because I started my career, not fully started, but the first time I had real success in the music industry was through Dirty Bird as a record label. and that held me back in so many ways, where people were like, oh no, he's just a dirty bird artist, he's just a dirty bird artist. And it took me years, and still for me now, it's still like some people still think of me as that, which is that's their choice, if you know what I mean. But it's interesting that you say that, because I personally wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah, I mean, just picking up from what you said, like being part of a clique, I think can give your career a boost, or give you kind of this baseline fan base to then spring forward from into whatever direction you want to go in. You know, I'm just specifically thinking about like Rich's, you know, Minus kind of crew, or Dice's Desolate crew. Dirty Bird certainly had theirs with Justin Martin. There's always someone at the top, and then you know they're the other guys that can kind of spread the vision under the banner. So that helped, but I made a conscious decision to try to make things as difficult for myself as possible, and I tried not to, as much as what I was doing was gaining a lot of interest from some of my techno peers, you know, who were idols to me, who invited me into their cliques. I really felt like I needed to not try to be part of any one thing. I had to try to just have my own voice and create my own sound and vision and aesthetic. And that was really challenging. And it was really, really difficult, because I was walking away from the promoters that I'd worked with for 15, 20 years while I was in Deep Dish. They were paying really good money. But those promoters and you know, the income obviously was attractive, but like those promoters weren't the right promoters. And so I had to say no to a lot of like lucrative offers, and I wasn't sure if I was, you know, burning bridges with them. And some of them I did burn bridges, because I ended up playing with their competitors. You know, who ultimately became like the correct promoters that I was meant to be working with as Dubfire. So there was this period of transition where I wasn't sure if what I was, you know, taking on would pan out for me, financially or creatively or career wise. But like, you know, we all have this, for anybody that gets into this industry as a serious artist with a vision, it's like there is no plan B. I mean, we all have something in us that we feel compelled to express. And by any means necessary. So I tapped into that feeling, because also there was a lot going on behind the scenes with Shram and I splitting that was really negative. And this was also like me going in the complete opposite direction was a way to kind of get away from that as well. So it just all felt, while I was completely outside my comfort zone, it felt like, and I go a lot throughout my whole career, and something I tell younger artists when they ask me, you know, what my journey was, it's like there's a lot to be said about like the technical aspects of what you do, and the creative aspects that you can explore, but like sometimes it's just about feeling, you know. And there's a lot of artists, very, very successful artists today, who just go by feeling. Like, does this feel right? You know, this booking request that I got, does it feel right? Is it a good look for me? Is it something I want to do? You know, or does it feel like I'm selling myself short, or I'm selling out, or whatever? So I think we all have that. Some people choose not to listen to that internal voice. Others are always in conflict with that internal voice. But I think more often than not, if you think back to when you felt like something was the right thing to do and you did something, you know, like that was the opposite, that was the wrong decision.
Totally.
You know, ultimately. Totally. So,
I guess at the beginning of, when did you start as Dubfire?
It was probably around 2000. I think
Yeah.
the GU compilation that I did as Dubfire came out in 2006. So maybe like, I remember Shram and I were arguing a lot when we were recording our second artist album.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it happened in the middle of in the recording sessions for our second artist album. And we kind of anticipated the split.
Yeah.
So we were telling promoters to bill us as Deep Dish, but have Dubfire and Shram in parentheses under the name.
Yeah.
Because there was no real conversations about splitting up, we both felt like we needed to have our individual names
totally
listed on those flyers. And that was kind of prophetic for what ended up happening. You know, we never thought that we would, you know, at best we thought like we would keep Deep Dish going, but like, you know, have these solo careers on the side, and we'd be in a position to have like two successful, you know, careers going side by side. Because there were certain things that he wanted to explore that maybe weren't appropriate for what we were doing as Deep Dish, because that was always like this compromised sound and vision. But yeah, like obviously things got ugly, and we just didn't want anything to do with Deep Dish. And now like we still get back together to do like the odd show here and there. Because the promoters, you know, like a lot of the big promoters these days have been longtime Deep Dish fans. And, you know, they're interested in us playing together again. And when we do play, sometimes, often actually, the last few times we played together, like we can still tap into that, that magic, you know, which was always that compromised vision, which was always the tug of war, the push pull that he and I had creatively and like business wise, that created the magic. You know, it was like it was all the fights and all the tension, like all that contributed to that element in Deep Dish that we're renowned for, I guess. And that didn't come, you know, none of that came easy.
No, I can imagine.
So
do you miss it?
No, I don't miss it. You know, like playing together again, for us rekindles that friendship and the magic that we had, and gives us what we need for that brief moment in time. But then we're happy to kind of go
separate ways,
retreat into our own corner.
Yeah.
You know,
you had pretty big records as Dubfire coming out of Deep Dish. I just like asking this question because it's a what if, and there's no right or wrong answers. Do you think if you didn't have those bigger records, you would be as successful as Dubfire is today?
Obviously not. I mean, you know, when you look at all those early records, like not only were they were sort of a time capsule of where my head was at creatively at each point, you know, whether it's Roadkill or Grindhouse Remix, and many other things kind of in between and after that period. I just tried to create, like, and I often say this in interviews, like legacy kind of became like an important thing for me, like what I leave behind, you know, for future generations, or what I leave behind as the calling card to what Dubfire was about musically became really, really important. So like I tried to choose projects that I felt I could contribute to, I could give it my own kind of twist. And I would spend as much time as necessary. I mean, there were many times where like I would do a remix, I'd turn it in, and then a couple of days later, I'd message the artist saying, listen, I've been listening to it a lot in my car and testing it out, and I'm just not happy with it. Can I take another crack at it? Yeah. And I'd start from the top again and go in a completely different direction. So it was that obsession with like legacy and being as creative as possible and trying to do the best work And sometimes it was like, I'd finish something and I'd like it, and then I'd be, searching for new music for my gig that weekend. And I'd come across something that was just so mind blowing. I'm like, something that would like raise the bar for me.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, I know I can do better.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do this original production all over again, take a different approach, or that remix all over again. So
it's kind of a blessing.
I was sort of obsessive about it.
It's a blessing in disguise, isn't it, when that happens? Because it's like when it's going back to what you're saying, is where you think everything you do is shit and everything everyone else does is amazing, right? And
totally.
It's the same for me. Like, I'll write a record and I'll be super happy with it, and then I'll see Maceo Plexus just put out a new record, and I'm just like, I might as well just give up now, because this guy's just on another level. But it also, that is for me, and it sounds like it's the same for you. It's the drive to get better, and it's the drive not to give up to get better. And it goes back to what we were saying right at the beginning, is that kind of the journey to perfection, that we're never going to get there, but it will get better each time.
I mean, understanding that it is a journey. If you're doing it as a career, like a lot of people, and I say this in interviews as well a lot, like want to fast track into being like a globally famous, successful DJ with a production pedigree, that's respected by everyone in the industry. And like, that just doesn't happen overnight.
No.
That takes time. And understanding that like you can have a long life, and you could flesh out your vision over a number of years or decades. Even once you understand that, then you're able to not just take your time and let your craft develop naturally and organically, but like also enjoy the journey, because it's all about enjoying the journey.
Do you think it's changed?
That long journey.
Do you think it's changed though nowadays on how because it's a career now, because people look at it as a career, it's like, I need to do this as fast and as quickly as possible. And I think with social media, you grew up without social media as deep dish. Even with Dubfire, social media wasn't, when it first started, it wasn't really a thing apart from MySpace. How have you what's your views on how the industry is in that sense now?
Yeah, everybody wants everything now or tomorrow, I mean, I have friends that had never had a tattoo and in like under a year, like they have an entire sleeve done. And it's purely as content to post on their social media.
It is.
So it's all about what's in the frame now. And you're constantly comparing your frame to someone else's frame. And trying to one up everyone else, whether it's like visually or musically, just to get something out there. You produce something real quick just to get something out there, just to have content for your social media. And it's just this game that is unwinnable. Ultimately, you're just going to feel. You're going to feel like you're going to have imposter syndrome. You're going to feel like a fake. You're going to feel hollow inside. Because it takes a career in music takes time. And people aren't willing to invest in the time. These days, and there's a lot of like manufactured superstars. So,
I agree. I think we're in a really interesting time in the industry where you have some extremely capable musicians, producers, DJs, from all ethnicities, which is amazing to see. But I think it's that battle that they must have, which I know I have every single day. It's that the social media battle. It's
exhausting.
Yeah.
I mean, being on social media and putting up content every day, whether it's just Instagram or like Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, which is a whole can of worms that I've never opened. Like, it's completely exhausting. But there are new artists today who've mastered that and who understand that they can use that as a way into the industry and as a way to get noticed. And you know, the public kind of eat that up.
Love it.
For whatever reason. Yeah. But it, you know, to be a truly great artist, you can't spend the majority of your time, you know, working your social media. It just doesn't happen.
No.
You know, for anybody that's coming from that, there's somebody making all the music and pushing all the buttons behind the scenes, you know. I'm sure there are artists, even though I can't think of them now, that have found a nice balance between those requirements because they're young and they grew up in that environment. But for people who only focus on that, and just try to give the impression via what they put into that frame that they're serious artists, I think the majority of the audiences can, you know, understand who they are from like the Fortets and, you know, other people.
I think great art
in that vein.
I think, do you think great art still comes through?
For sure.
Yeah.
I can't think of any examples right now, but I'm sure. I'm sure it exists.
I think.
I mean, like,
go on.
If you have someone who can convey, can communicate, can connect their aesthetic and sound on those platforms, and also manage to do that like in a performance, then I think that comes across honestly. I don't know why I'm thinking of Fred again, because I'm not that familiar with his music, but that feels, just from what I have seen, that feels like it's a natural, like what he, you know, the image that he conveys on social media and performances all are tied in together. It just feels like honest,
authentic.
I think authentic and honest. I think that's what we're also trying to create, you know.
I totally agree with that. It's tough because I've seen people that I got a close friend that like has started DJ, like is a talented songwriter, started DJing at the beginning of the lockdown, became pretty popular on TikTok overnight, put in a lot of work during the lockdown, came out of lockdown with a manager, had records that have hit 3-4 million streams, signed by WME, and then 6 months later, because they don't have the direction where they know they want to go, dropped by WME and now are managerless. And and I think it's like, I think that's, we're going to see that more and more, which is sad to me. It's like not allowing the artist, or teams not allowing the artist to be an artist, and to understand that this is going to be a roller coaster. There's going to be some great times and there's going to be some terrible times. We've just got to stick with them. There's a reason why we like them at the beginning. So let's just let them do what they do and we can just support. But that just turns into the business side of things.
Yeah. And, you know, like you said, like understanding that you're going to have, throughout the trajectory of a career, nobody is going to be at the top, like their entire career. There's going to be downturns. Some of the greatest artists in the world had periods of time where their music didn't connect with the audience, and they were dropped by the label or the manager or whatever, but they kept at it. And you know, that's all they know.
Yeah.
And that's what they do best. And okay, if that didn't work, then maybe the next thing will work, and not giving up. And yeah, sadly, like a lot of labels and management companies, like the bigger ones these days, you know, it's all about like who's hot now, who's going to be hot tomorrow. And as soon as they're not hot anymore, they know that there's a massive queue of people waiting for that spot. So they just kind of recycle.
Yeah, just a churn.
You know.
Do you talk about your agency?
Do I talk about my agency?
Yeah.
I'm part. I mean, I'm part of the Bullet Agency. We're a boutique booking agency. I think we've been around for just over 20 years now.
Yeah, that's a long time.
That's a long time. Yeah, my agent Ryan is my worldwide booking agent, and my brother Arash is the other partner. And I mean, we've handled a lot of big and small artists over the years, continue to do so. But at the end of the day, we're like a small boutique booking agency.
Yeah.
It's challenging.
Yeah.
I'm not involved in the day-to-day.
Yeah.
But I never felt. I heard horror stories from my colleagues, you know, who maybe started in Bullet or just went from whatever agency they were at to like the William Morrises and CAAs and stuff like that, and ended up coming back to us or leaving and going with another boutique agency, because it's especially nowadays, you know, you have leverage if you're shit hot and promoters want to book you.
Yeah.
If the phone's ringing constantly, you have a lot of leverage.
Yeah.
They are, you know, like they're interested in you, and like they're active in bookings, and they're engaged with you, and they're happy to have you on board or whatever. But the minute the phone's not ringing anymore,
game over.
You get cut.
Yeah,
game over. So for a lot of DJs who have their first brush with success, you know, they feel like, okay, that's going to be able to be sustained for a long period of time.
Yeah.
But there's always someone new.
Yeah. Always.
Especially these days, they're constantly new people coming through. So it could be a rude awakening when you find out like your diary's not full like it once was, and you have to have a difficult conversation with your booking agency who want to drop you. So
have you ever been dropped, or have you always just had Ryan?
I've always said, being part of your own booking agency means different. You don't get dropped. Yeah.
But were you?
And I think maybe that's the reason why I started a label as well, because I didn't want to have to shop my music.
Yeah,
you know, I didn't really want to have that disappointment.
The rejection is real.
The rejection, yeah. I don't take rejection well, so.
Mate, who does? Like, I think the music industry gears you up to be able to take rejection well. For me, like, it was just trying to sign records from the get-go, no one giving a fuck, really. And it's like, no, what is this? And then agents, managers, the relationships break down, and I'm, touch wood, I'm very fortunate with the team I have. But it takes years, and it is a process.
But did they come to you? Did your team come to you, or like the agency you're working with, managers, etc.? Like, did they gravitate towards you because you were creating something that was, you know, getting attention, getting their attention, or did you have to reach out?
So it was really
create those like teams.
I was really fortunate. I was really fortunate. When I signed to Dirty Bird 2014, Barclay, he told his agent Max Braun that he should sign me. Max and I had conversations, hung out, and I was fortunate enough that he took me on. But also Max was becoming a much more successful agent than I was an artist at the time. So I then was given to his assistant, Aaron. Aaron then left the agency. I was then given to Latney and Daisy. And then Latney and Daisy dropped me. And then I had a very good relationship with Cody. At Paradigm, they moved to Paradigm then, and then Wasserman. But I had a very good relationship with Cody, and I'd always had in my head that one day I wanted Cody to be my agent. So they picked me up pretty much as soon as Latney and Daisy dropped me, which I was super fortunate for. But yeah, I've never really had hype in my career where people are coming for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's always been relationship built. My current manager now, Ryan, I got introduced to him by Ryan King. He used to be an agent at WME. He decided not to be an agent anymore and took a year out traveling with his wife and wanted to become a manager after. And I'm pretty close with Chris Lake, and he used to be Chris's agent, and Chris put us in touch. And it was more of I look at relationships as like, although it is business, I look at it very much like a partnership and a relationship. And I didn't take Ryan on straight away. We were kind of getting to know each other as friends for 4 months before we started to work together, because from previous managers that I've had and the experience that I kind of went through with previous managers, I really wanted somebody that was like my mate, really. And to like go through the bad times and go through the good times, and just also who's willing to no one's ever going to put as much work in as I am, but willing to put in a percentage of that work. So it's tough. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking as you're talking, like I can't imagine someone who's on William Morris thinking, if they're having a bad moment in their career, that William Morris is actually going to
keep them,
continue being their agent. I mean, that must be a terrifying feeling, like being part of like a big agency, knowing that at any point when things aren't going well career-wise, you will probably get dropped.
Yeah.
Which is maybe why like there's so many boutique agencies out there that have sprung up, and the relationships are different. Like you said, like they're more friendly. But like with your transition out of Dirty Bird and into who you are now as an artist, like what were musically, and also like, you know, changing agents and things like that, like musically things were also changing for you, right?
Yeah.
So maybe what was appropriate for you as far as representation
wasn't now
at one point wasn't
the fact that Latney and Daisy dropped me, it was the best thing that happened to me, because I'm still friends with them. I have no issues with them. It's just business in that way. But like I still speak to Daisy quite a lot, and it's purely they didn't understand the direction Ryan and I wanted to go in, and just didn't get it. And so we were having offers come in, but all of the offers, like when you kind of started Dubfire, I needed to not go with those promoters. I needed to go in certain different directions. I needed to sign to different record labels, which it's what I had to do, but it's allowed me to get to where I am now as an artist, which I'm way happier with.
Yeah, I mean, everything has a beginning, middle, and end to the saga or the story. And understanding, I often say this to my friends as well, like understanding where you are in that cycle, that life cycle, where you are in that relationship or creative partnership or whatever like that. It can be really informative in understanding like, okay, it's time to end it.
Yeah.
And there's no reason to end it on bad terms, but it's okay. You know, you can even compared to like relationships. It's
Yeah.
okay. We've been in love for a long time. We've been together a long time. I just don't feel the connection anymore. We've evolved as people.
Yeah.
And it's time to move on. And it's the people that are afraid of moving forward and moving on that end up getting stuck over and over again. And in that, you know, in that cycle of not being able to make any moves in any direction.
Yeah.
You know,
I like, I'm sure you do as well. I have friends in the industry that are in that, and I feel very sorry for them because I wish I could just shake them and just be like, come on, like, please, like, you are extremely talented. You have everything. You have all the minerals to do what needs to be done, but you're just not doing it. And it's a process. It's a journey that everyone has to take. And it takes as long as, like, I'm sure we've all had friends that is dating that boyfriend or that girlfriend that we all know is not right for them, but they have to work that out until in their own time. And when it happens, we're all like, we told you, but it takes time. Which is, I guess, just the facts of life, I guess.
Yeah. And also understanding that there's going to be rejection, like being able to take like rejection well. I mean, my girlfriend's a model. She has to go to, you know, castings where there's a lot of models, you know, and the client ultimately choose the best person for the job. And oftentimes you're not going to get chosen. I mean, you think about actors and actresses, you know, everybody is vying for that one role, whether it's the lead or the supporting. And sometimes you're told you're too fat, you know, you're too ugly, you're too old, too young, whatever. Like, imagine if DJs were, you'd have to be very thick skinned if you were told, you know what, like, we're actually looking for someone younger for this festival slot.
It's brutal.
You know,
that is, the modeling industry is an industry that I'm glad I'm not good enough looking.
Or someone with a full head of hair, or you know, like,
literally.
It
was awful. I think the thing for me,
someone without a beard.
That's the only thing I got going right now.
Sorry, you got to shave your beard for this. If you want to play Awakenings, you got to shave your beard.
Could you imagine?
Are you willing to do that?
Could you imagine? That's wild.
Would you?
No, 100% not. No.
Okay.
Not at all.
Right. Then you're a true artist.
It's a wild. It's something during COVID actually, like, I don't know about you, but it actually helped me massively, like, mentally, where there was a period where I just stopped looking at everybody else and really focused on what I was doing and where I wanted to go in my career. And there was a realization that there's space for everybody in the industry. How have you coped with things over the years with having the ups and downs of success?
I mean, to this day, I mean, like, as much as I try not to compare myself to others or to keep tabs on what everyone else is doing, I often find myself doing just that. But my fallback position is always, like, the prep I do for the gigs, taking a lot of time to search for new music and not just going through the promos that I get sent, but actually spending time on Hardwax or Clone or Beatport or Track Source, whatever, spending hours and hours and hours and maybe finding like 10 good songs. And then preparing all that music, like, for, you know, technically speaking, like, because I play with Tractor and there's a lot of grid marks and loop points and things like that, creating playlists that I do. And I, you know, every week I'm playing multiple sounds, you know, exploring different genres. One week I'm playing with like Moscow Man or Rebel Yetto, and it's more new disco indie dance. Then, you know, just last weekend it was techno in Austin, like full on 140 BPM techno. So things like that keep me engaged and interested and keep me distracted from comparing that comparison game and like looking at other people's success and also understanding that I've been really fortunate up till now. Many others haven't. I've been super fortunate in my successes, in the trajectory that I've had in my career, and to appreciate that. But yeah, it's just like retreating into your art, what you know best. What I know best is being in the studio or being in the DJ booth. And as long as I could convey something emotionally, honestly, authentically through those mediums, that will keep me interested and distracted enough to kind of just focus on becoming a great artist over a long period of time, respected artist over a long period of time. Of course, we all, have missteps along the way.
Totally.
We don't always make the right decisions, but being able to live with those decisions and understanding when one journey ends, another inevitably begins. And you just have to see it and be willing to take that journey, that next journey.
Take the risk as well, isn't it? It's about being able to
take the risk.
Yeah.
It's a risk taking. Without risk, there's no reward, as the old cliche.
Yeah.
goes.
I want to talk about Evolve as an album. I've listened to it many times whilst driving.
Thank you.
It's amazing, of course. It's very much a Dubfire record, which I know sounds weird for me to say because it is you as an artist.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah,
that was
but it's exactly what I wanted as a Dubfire album.
Yeah.
When you start the album process, or before you even start it, where in your mind are you, where you want to release an album, you want to write an album? Where does that even start?
Yeah, I mean, I never wanted to, after Deep Dish, I never really felt, because I felt like in listening to the old Deep Dish albums, it was cool that we did an album. I think at the time, electronic artists felt like they could do an album, like a concept album. But as much as we made some great music, really esoteric, eclectic music on those albums, like I didn't want to try to create this album that didn't represent what I do as a DJ. Or what I do as a remixer or producer of 12-inch singles, So I shied away from like the whole album concept. And it wasn't until, Chris Liebing's a good friend of mine. It wasn't until like, he told me he got signed to Mute to do these albums. And he was sending me like, early versions of the albums and we were having a lot of conversation about the whole album format, whether it's viable or not for us in this day and age. And also speaking to Tiga as well, like they all kind of echoed this belief that like whether anybody likes it or not, the album is something personal. It's like a personal musical statement.
Totally. And
if these tracks feel like they belong together under the guise of an album, then what's the harm, Also, like marketing an album, because you want to sometimes have things to market around a tour. Having like an album to market, giving the promoters something to market the gigs around, also becomes something to think about. And so like I warmed up to the idea of having an artist album after being a solo artist for a decade, over a decade. So I just wanted to kind of explore that to see what it would accomplish. And having done it, I can actually say it does fuck all. To be perfectly frank. it doesn't do shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for anybody listening who wants to do an album as like a vanity project or to feed part of their ego, whatever, it doesn't really do anything. I mean, it was nice to gather all that music because sonically it felt like it was all coming from the same place. You know, I love the kind of the packaging, especially around the box set that we released, the limited edition box set. And it was nice to come back to that feeling, you know, of being like a vinyl collector.
Yeah.
So for the physical box set product that ended up hitting the shelves, as a music fan, I'm happy I did it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the effort that it took by me and my team to get it out there. And I'm happy that the fans have ordered it and they appreciate it in the same way that I do. But as far as what it will do for your career, or if it'll get you, you know, better bookings or billing or whatever, it doesn't really do shit.
Yeah. I guess the way albums are nowadays and how music is consumed, we don't consume albums as much as we used to, right? It's very different. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, sometimes I like, you know, there have been artists over the years that there's been like no PR, no big fuss that's made for months before. One day they're just like, you know, hey, dropping an album later today.
Yeah.
Hope you guys like it. And that becomes an honest and authentic kind of personal statement. It's like, I don't have any PR. I'm not going around doing interviews to promote this either. I'm not going on a big live tour of this album, whatever. I'm just kind of releasing this because it feels right to me right now to share this with all of you. And so I think maybe we've moved as electronic artists, or maybe as just musicians in general, we've evolved into releasing albums in that way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think,
and that's using social media in a way that truly represents who you are as an artist.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, totally. I think it's the whole, the single culture doesn't allow people to get excited for something. I remember being younger and just like, I'm always excited to hear the next Chemical Brothers album or the next Faithless album, because you wouldn't hear from them for God knows how long. Whereas now there's so much music coming out, even from your favorite artists, that an album's just a bunch more records of what they would normally put out. So I think that's the difference between albums nowadays, and everyone's more accessible with social media. We can DM anyone, if you know what I mean. That's how it is. It's just a different culture. I still love albums though, personally. I think albums are...
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait for the next Radiohead album.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but, you know, we're not bands. Like, we're electronic musicians, but bands can go away for a long time. You know, I'm really close with Daniel Kessler from the band Interpol.
Wow.
And they can go away for a long time and, you know, chill out after touring for like 2 to 4 years or whatever for the last album, and work on new material, then come back out, you know, swinging. And tour heavily like they did with the most recent album.
That's
electronic musicians can't go away, you know, for 3-4 years.
No, not at all. That's almost, for me, something. It's the goal for me though, is to be able to be an album artist and tour an album in a way.
Yeah, I mean, the Chems like succeeded because that's what they've done from the very beginning,
day one. Yeah.
You know, I remember always getting like the white label right before they were going to release an album.
Yeah.
I'm sure maybe you remember this time. A white label would come, and it wouldn't even have Chemical Brothers stamped on it. It's just like it began in Africa.
Yeah.
And you get it, you put it on, you're like, what the fuck is this?
Electronic battle weapons.
Electronic battle weapons. Exactly what I was thinking. Yeah. You'd get that. And that was like a genius way of like getting everybody like excited for what was to come. And after a few of those electronic battle weapons releases, you knew without it even saying Chemical Brothers, you knew when you saw that, shit, there's a new Chemical Brothers record coming out.
Yeah.
They'd always done that. Like they kind of began, their career doing things the way like traditional bands do them. Yeah.
There's something about that I really respect as well.
Sticking to your guns. I think like the genius of that, it's not like a relatively new or innovative idea. It's just like, okay, sticking to what you believe in, like sticking to your principles. Like if you feel like that's how you want to communicate your message to the masses, then stick to that. Until you become known and established as an artist who does just that. As opposed to like, changing your message or changing the way you do things because something's not working. You keep changing and you keep chasing like what you think the audience wants from you. And after a while you start to question like who you are as an artist.
100%.
You just lose yourself in all these tactics and different things that you try because you think that's what's going to lead to like, higher chart positions or more acclaim or bigger social media standing or whatever. That's what I'm seeing a lot of people doing today. They're just, they're trying anything. They're kind of
for that success,
playing that game that's unwinnable,
Yeah. And it is also unsustainable as well. You can't sustain a career like that. At all.
No.
At all. Dude, we've just done an hour and a half.
Wow, have we?
Yeah.
Shit.
I'm sure we could keep going, but I think people would get bored of us droning on.
Probably. Yeah.
How can people hear the album? How can people get involved with the album? And how can people follow you and everything like that?
There's a new website, and that's kind of the hub now for all things Dubfire. So just dubfire.com. We have new merchandise. So yeah, I'm quite easy to access. And like I said earlier, I'm beginning Monday. I'm diving back into the studio to finish a lot of old collabs that I started last year. There's something with Luke Slater, with Davide Scolace. I'm doing a remix for Guy Borato, which I've got to start next week as well for Compact. I'm doing a remix with Fidele. It's kind of a co-remix thing for my tour manager, who's going to be releasing a song on my label.
Amazing.
His real name is Felipe, but he records under Emitter, and Fidele has become kind of a mentor to him. And I've been guiding his career as well. He just had a song come out on an Obscura compilation. So he's really happy about that. So I'm trying to kind of pay it forward.
I love that.
And mentor him. So I'm working on that. And Frank de Wolf, the old Belgian rave legendary producer. He's asked me to remix one of his old songs. So I get my head around which one I want to do. And then, hopefully I'll have time to create some new music. I have a lot of ideas. There's a lot of loops and other ideas that I just hadn't had time to explore last year that I want to dive into. So, look out for all that.
Amazing, man. I can't wait to hear it. Hopefully we get to eat somewhere at some point this year. That would be great.
We will. Yeah. I feel like it's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Very soon.
Thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks for your time. Big love. Keep safe. See you soon.
Take care. See you.
And that is a wrap. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Keep safe. Please share it with your friends. See you next time.